Hi guys, it's Darren here again from Global Garage. Time for another quick repair video. I've got the MegaCD. It's actually a Japanese version, MegaCD, and it's got a few problems. But today we're just going to tackle the save game battery that sits up in this corner. There's also a fuse over the back we'll have a look at, maybe in this video or the next. CD unit needs potentially a new laser and a new drive belt, which is about here. But for now, I'll just show you the disassembly and we'll get on to the save game battery. So first things first, flip it over. You'll see my big label I've already put on there. I've actually already done a BIOS and a new laser on this, but for the exercise, I'll demonstrate again. I might actually film it on a different unit just so you can see how it's all done. But for today, let's just pull out these screws. So they're really obvious. Just screws around the outside, and we'll pop the lid. Okay, once you have those screws out, just apply a little bit of pressure here on this side of the lid. Just lift it up, and also here on this cartridge slot, sort of grab it and pull it in that direction a little bit of diagonal, and it'll come out quite easily. Just a bit of fiddling, and you'll get that. Put that aside, and here's the inside of the unit. So CD-ROM drive. We've got two boards, well, three boards really. One on the bottom of the CD, one on the back. Here's the power board, and the one we're interested in is, just turn that around, is this one here, which is, let's call it the main board. Has connection from the CD, has a connection down to the power board. BIOS there. Really need to put a sticker over that so it doesn't raise itself. And the battery that we're talking about. So these little batteries over here, that one is a Sanyo ML2016. They're actually rechargeable, so you can't just replace them with the standard coin cell that's non-rechargeable. It's not a good idea because these boards actually have a charging circuit built into them. So if you put a standard battery in that and leave it with the same configuration, it'll try and recharge a standard battery, and you'll potentially cause damage there. This coin cell might leak or explode and corrode your board, so don't think that's a good idea. So what I'm going to do is fit a socket today. There's plenty of room in there to fit a socket. We actually fit it slightly like that on a slight angle. It's the way the pins at the back here are arranged. It actually works really nicely, sitting right about there. That's what we're going to do, and then you can just put in your rechargeable ML2016 coin cell, and it just fits straight into the holder, and you can replace that in the future. You could go ahead and hunt one down with tabs on it, and they do exist. They're quite expensive. Expect to pay around 15 Australian dollars, maybe something like 12 American dollars for one with tabs, or if you're going to get one without the tabs, somewhere around maybe like $8 to $10 or something. They're not cheap, those things. So, it's tempted to put in a cheap one, like a cheap little non-rechargeable, like a 2032 or something. That will work, 3 volts, it's all fine, but I wouldn't do it because you'll probably ruin your board. So let's pull the board out and get on with it. I'll stop rambling. I've got a real problem for rambling, don't I? So there's one screw here, one screw here, one screw here, and one screw here. You got to take those 4 out, and if you look closely, down this hole is a chunky one down there, and another one down there. So pull those chunky ones out as well, and that loosens off this rear connector, and then the whole board will lift out. And then it's just the ribbon cable, so if you're delicate, these will come straight out. Good little trick with this one is just put your screwdriver underneath and just loop this through like that. Just do it with my fingers rather than the screwdriver. Loop that through, there's plenty of length, and that'll just pop straight off the connector. Just apply even force on that. Try not to pull them diagonal. And this one, it's really up to you. You can take the top one off, or you can take the bottom one off. I prefer the bottom. I just think it's easier. Just hold here and just apply constant pressure. You could slightly wiggle it, but I'd be careful. They're quite delicate. Pull that straight out, and then the whole board will just lift straight out. So then you're good to go. All right, let's. I'll get on and disassemble that, and I'll come back in a sec. Okay, so the whole board will just lift out. I've disconnected one ribbon. Thought I'd just try technique and just sit that back like that. Just give it a bit of room, and then possibly makes it easier to get this ribbon out. It's never easy with one hand, that's for sure. Yeah, okay, it's coming out pretty easily. Yeah, there it is. Alright, so it's up to you. You'll have two hands to do that job. So the point is, if you rotate the board upwards like this, you get a bit more length out of the cable. You get a bit more room to pull it out, so that's what I'd recommend you do. Let's just drop the camera. Okay, so I actually told you to take out that screw up here, so just ignore that. I forgot. It's actually, all that one does is hold on the support for the LED little plastic things. So yeah, don't do the one at the end here. All the others are necessary to take out. That one, just leave. I'll pull that board out and I'll screw that back together and show you what I mean. So you can just leave that one alone. Okay, so to put these LED little glass prisms back into place and the retaining clip, after you stuff it up like I did, they're both the same. They face the same direction. You've got little feet on the bottom. So if you look closely at the board, there's little holes. It simply sits over the LED, clips into those holes. Both of them do. They both face the same direction. And then you've got your little retaining clip, which is going to go face down because the screw will come into it. And it faces this way with the kind of protrudes into the board. So this edge is flat and that edge protrudes. Put that over the top and it'll just sit into that groove into the board. It'll sit like that. So we'll put the screw in from underneath, and it's a little tiny screw that you pulled out earlier. It's much smaller than the big ones. So that's the one to go back in. So sorry about that, but that's how you fix it. Okay, so if you look at the board, our battery just lives here in the corner, positive and negative. If we flip that over, let's have a go at pulling this out. So I'll just heat this up. And I'm just putting pressure on it with my thumb behind the board here. I've got a desoldering gun, so it's kind of a bit easier. That's what that buzzing noise is. It's still not that easy actually. It's quite a thick board, these, and they really suck the heat away. So you need a very hot iron. That's my advice. What are we left with? Okay, that's prized up there. It's almost out. If you're a little bit brutal, you can actually get these tabs off the batteries. It's up to you. You can kind of snap them off or use a thin blade and cut them. I'm just going to keep persisting with the desoldering technique at the moment. Just get some pliers underneath, bit of leverage. Just get the standard soldering on and just have another crack at this. It's not very good. Okay, we got that one. It's actually more difficult than I thought. This soldering iron's a bit worn out, so it doesn't get very hot anymore, but that's just an excuse. So, oh, that one was easy. Yeah, I might have to get a new iron, but what do? You make do, right? So, there you go. Okay, so they've come out. That one actually looks like it took potentially a solder pad with it. No, that's okay. Alright, so board's out. Sorry, the battery's out. Have a good look now at the front. It's a Sanyo. There you go, I think you can see that. Sanyo ML2016 with these big dirty tabs. Right, so we're not going to use that ever again. I'll just bend that up out of the way. And there you go. So you can see that's rechargeable. Interesting, hey? Rechargeable 3 volts. So in Sega's infinite wisdom, they put a rechargeable battery in because as you play the system, it just gives a bit of a trickle charge and it'll keep the battery pretty fresh and keep your save games running. So yeah, good idea, but a little bit of a pain. You got to change these batteries as they get old, so what do you do? Okay, so we're left with a board looking like this. One hole in there, one there. They're both positive. We're going to use this one because it's just more accessible. I don't really know why. I've got a feeling one's power to the SRAM chip and one's got to do with the trickle charge I was talking about. I haven't looked into it far enough, but I think that's why there's probably 2. I don't really need that. Anyway, that's how it is, and the negative pin's here. So I'll just grab a solder sucker and just clean these holes out. These 2 are actually pretty good. This one's blocked still with solder. So yeah, the way to fix that is you just reheat it up, melt it, use a solder sucker and clean that out. So I'll do that off camera just quickly because it's a bit hard to film that, and then we'll mount the socket. Okay, so we've cleaned the holes up, as you can see, and we're going to mount our socket. I've just put a small bend on those pins just to get them started. So I'll put them in. There you go. So that fits quite easily. Sits really well actually. It's a really good fit. So just off to the side, yeah, it's perfect. Avoids this board. Yeah, happy with that. So flip it over. See the pins poking through there and there. Shouldn't fall out. We'll just quickly chuck some solder on that. Okay. Let's have a look. Ooh. Just drop the board. Yeah, look, we're not going to see what it looks like underneath, but I think we're pretty safe to say that's a job done there. Yeah, I'm happy with that. It's really secure now. So, final thing on this board, while we've got it out, we may as well replace these electrolytic caps. This one here and the one up the end of the board there, that one up there. So they're 100 microfarad 10 volt. You should be able to see that there. There you go. 10 volt, 100 microfarad. The way these caps work, you need to get the rating correct, like the 100 microfarad. That's very important. But the voltage isn't critical. You can go higher, so you just can't go lower. So that's a 10 volt because, you know, typically these boards will have 5 volts running through them, maybe 9 or 10 occasionally, but this particular circuit's probably going to have 5 volts on it, so that cap's fine, rated at 10 volts. It's just what's more common is you'll end up finding caps on the internet from Chinese sellers that typically run, 25 volts. So that's 100 microfarad, 25 volts. And that's fine, higher the voltage tolerance, the better really. It's no big deal at all. As long as the physical package size stays, approximately the right size, you're okay. So let's get on and do that. It actually sits really nice like that on the plastic base. You can, sorry I bumped the camera there. You can just grab onto the cap and what we're going to do is we're going to heat the pins and just move them side to side and just pull those legs out. So let's see what we can do here. Okay, there's one coming there. Right. Let's reposition that and try this next one. And there he goes. So that's out. Throw that away. And on to the next one. This one's a vertical one, so the pins are here and here. So I might push that down to begin with. I swear this iron's not getting hot enough. It's just, yeah, it's not very good. So it's a bit of a struggle to do this at the moment. That should have already melted and already been moving, but it's not. So yeah, it's really awkward. Yeah, it's not working really. Let's try this bottom pin. Yeah, I'm just going to flip the board over. Might get a better angle on the pin, get more heat into it. Yeah, maybe that's working. Feel it sliding. Okay, that worked. Oops, scratch the board a little bit there. It's okay. This is a real bugger. Yeah, I've got to get a new iron. If anyone could recommend a good soldering iron, I'd like to hear about it. So post up some comments and I'll go do some shopping. All right, got that leg out. Ooh, it's getting hot now. And this one's just a little bit stubborn. Let's get it right there. That should do it. There we go. Wow, that was a real mission. Bloody hell. Fingers got a bit hot there. Yeah, look, this old banger. I'm gonna replace it. All right, so once again, off camera, I'll just clean up these holes with the solder sucker, and we'll put in the new caps. Okay, those holes are all cleaned up, nice and clean, and we'll put in the cap. So caps are pretty straightforward. They're basically polarized with one leg longer than the other, negative and a positive. So the negative is always the stripe and the short leg. So the easy way to remember which is negative is the stripe, or the negative is shorter, is less than the positive, negative. It has more, right? More leg. So let's just put these in the board. This one here is capacitor 26, positive, negative. So let's put that in with the stripe facing the negative. Let's feed that through. Squash it down a little bit. It doesn't need to sit right on the board. It just has to sit, pretty close. I bend the legs over just to hold it, and we'll do the other one while we're at it. This one goes that way, so the stripe negative. Put him in, just squash him down a little bit, and bend the legs over. Come back and solder these little bastards into place. So here we go. Try and get some heat into this board. Yeah, look, it's really struggling. Okay. Probably going to be okay. I'm holding this longer than I normally would because I want whatever heat I've got on the iron to penetrate the board. Kind of go through the hole a little bit, so Okay, it's pretty good. We turn it over and have a look. I don't know if we'll be able to see, but yeah, the solder has actually penetrated that. That's come up through the hole, which is excellent. That's what you want to see. Yeah, it's actually worked all right. So we've got reasonable heat transfer and solder flow there. So that's all good. Okay, so just double check you got your polarity correct. Stripe, negative, yes, and negative on the negative stripe. Okay, that's all done. So that board's ready to reassemble. So I'll get on and do that now. Just to give you a heads up on some of the other videos, we're going to pull out the BIOS and burn a new version. This is a Japanese version of the MegaCD, and all of them I've ever seen have a socket already on the board. So it's a dip package ready to go. So we'll basically just we'll pop that off. We'll put in the eraser or erase it and flash a new BIOS. Probably the USA one, the region-free hacked version that's out there on the internet. Download that, put it into the old burning software, do a byte swap on it, and burn it. And I'll step you through that later in a different video, which I'll link to below. All right, on to the reassembly. I don't know if you can see this properly, but just the first step in the reassembly is to put the boards back in. And what I like to do is, with the board we were just working on, just have it upside down and the ribbon here facing down. We're going to try and put it into the board first. I just like to do it this way personally because you get a bit more length on the ribbon and it's just a little bit easier. So we'll just get that seated like that, and then very gently, with kind of in the middle of it, just push that down. Okay, there you go. So that's it's gone in nicely. So if we try to have a look at that, you'll see that it's sitting quite flush. It's gone right in, and then we simply drop the board over, roll it over like that, and you'll see that it wants to sit back nicely. So that's my little trick of putting this back together. And then on this one, tuck the ribbon underneath the loop, fold this forward. You know, just inspect the pins, make sure they're all good, and you could put some you really could put some isopropyl on those pins now if you wanted to and clean them up, but these are pretty good. That one there is actually a little bit dodgy, so we'll be very delicate with this. Make sure we get it all started and they're all lined up before we push it in, and just force that in just carefully like that. So that's that little trick there. Okay guys, screws are next. So basically you put the screws back, one in the corner, one up here, one over this side, and if you look really closely, the chunky screws that we pulled out earlier, so there's two chunky ones, they go down the edge there on the connector. So we put these screws back in, and that's pretty much the end of the video. We'll put the lid back on. I'll just quickly pop in a battery and we'll give this a test. Right, so we've put the lid back on and just flipped it upside down. Just put the screws back in and you're good to go. That's it. So I'll power this up in a second and we'll see what it looks like.